Hello YouTube, I'm Southern Wolverine, and this is Rome 2 Total War 2 versus 2 battle. Here's the general of my Epirus army. He's leading in person my cavalry force from his unit of Hellenic, whatever the hell are these guys? Hellenic Royal Cavalry. And the rest of the cavalry force consists of 3 Thessalian cavalry. And the leading element is 2 units of Tarentine cavalry. Alright. The main infantry force is 3 units pikes, 2 units of these cheap Illyrian levies as an outflanking force, Thurio spears to hold the flanks of my pikes, and 3 units of Agrianian axemen, who are decent javelin men and in a pinch can be used as a flanking melee force as well. Over here, Comrade Drago's army, I'm sorry, of course I also missed one of my marquee units, the mercenary Indian war elephants, which were added to Epirus in, I believe, the Beasts of War DLC. Anyway, Comrade Drago's army has a unit of scythe chariots and a unit of African war elephants. He's got some Carian axemen as a melee flank protection force. His main line is just Egyptian pikes and light peltasts all the way down. And then he's got 1 Egyptian cav and 3 Ptolemaic cavalry. And I'm just going to get action started because it takes a little while for contact to begin. I'm going to get started and go through the opposing forces. Now see, this Oathsworn unit has 3 chevrons, so this was quite an expensive unit, but this is general. See, this is an all infantry Averni army, so a bunch of Celtic warriors on this flank, just lined up, a whole giant row of them, and then 3 units of chosen spearmen with a bunch of chevrons on them down at the end here. I'm still not convinced in this game that all the chevrons are worth it, but these would be very effective units fighting against cavalry. As you see, let's see what all their boosts did for them. So yeah, see they have 33 melee attack, 85 melee defense, 68 morale, which is pretty darn good, and a 15-point bonus versus large. And morale is pretty darn, what did I say, morale 68. Oh, so he's got 4 units of these beefed up chosen spearmen. He also has a couple units of Gallic hunters that have hidden themselves up in these trees. I believe 3 or possibly 4 units of them. And the Swaby over here is also a infantry-centric force. Bunch of Germanic slingers, 4 of them out in front. His main line is Bloodsword sword units, and a couple units of Berserkers as the reserve striking force. And then 4 units of Noble Riders. So this is a pretty solid cavalry force as well. Although if they take a charge from all those Ptolemaic cav, they're going to get pretty beat up on the charge. Alright, so let's just pop to the overview for a second. So, what we're wanting to do is we see that the Averni have no spears in their entire army. Now, he's got this Noble Rider force, but if we can get that engaged to where it can't interfere, these war elephants and chariots can just charge through all this and just cause havoc. Because these sword units are not going to be equipped to stop that sort of thing. And the pikes and javelins can be used to hold their front while all that's going on. Meanwhile, my cavalry is going to start moving around the edge of this infantry-centric force. And I hadn't seen any missiles yet at this point. He's about to reveal the Gallic hunters to shoot at my Tarentines. Yeah, there you go. So they're coming out to shoot at my skirmishers. And I was hoping to get some good volley on this Oathsworn. I got a few shots off, but didn't really take any of them out. Did some health damage, but didn't start killing them yet. But I don't want them sitting here getting shot by these guys that I didn't know were there. Really, I could have just almost charged these guys. Even though the Tarentines aren't great in combat, they'd still beat these Gallic hunters. These guys are not terribly impressive. Let's look at their stats real quick. Missile damage is halfway decent, but of course, melee stats are terrible. Terrible armor. Morale's mediocre. So here comes my cavalry, my melee cavalry also moving around the side here. See, if these guys move too far away, I will happily charge through them and wreck that force. But I know I can outmaneuver him because he hasn't shown any cavalry yet. And they didn't really have any trees in their deployment zone, so only those units that could stealth deploy could really come up here and hide. So he's moved some of his Celtic warriors out in front. Not entirely sure why he's done that, but he's using a large part of his army over here in these woods. He's going to start using them to try to counter my cavalry as I'm going to threaten to attack them here. Meanwhile, Drago has commenced a cavalry charge over here, and these noble riders are pulling back to try to engage me. Now here there are a couple of Night Hunter units, so he did have some spears. These Night Hunter units were hidden, and he used them to try to ambush the cavalry. And he does get him into this one unit of Egyptian cav at the cost of just one unit of these Germanic slingers, which is not a bad deal. So the Ptolemaic cav are still rushing out, able to engage the noble riders, and this is the fight that Drago wants. It's Ptolemaic cav versus the noble riders. Keep these guys pinned. Yeah. So now this infantry force is kind of pulled back, but now we see here's the attack we wanted. All the spears are now on the other side fighting cavalry, and these elephants are just able to rush right through these guys. Javelins are raining down on them now. So this force is starting to get beat up pretty good. So see the elephants just smacking these guys down. So on my side, I'm still trying to encircle the Averni army and keep him maneuvering so he can't help his ally. This Celtic warrior force has moved out, so I'm going to skirmish with it for a little bit since there's no missile troops over here to stop me from just raining javelins on these guys. So you see they're desperately trying to protect themselves with their shield, but it's not going to get the job done for long. I like this guy with two giant javelins stuck in his shield. So it's at this point that I would seriously consider that this is a really bad place to be. Yeah, and see, even my elephants even got in the action over here, to try and take out some of these Night Hunter units that were hidden on the flank. And this other unit of Night Hunters, I believe the Swaby player had left the game by this point. His force is pretty much decimated, so these guys are under computer control, and they're not going to last very long against this, massive force of infantry, javelins shooting at them. So pretty much it's just down here. These elephants are now pushing into this unit of swords where there's not a spear in sight or a javelin in sight, and the pikes are also going to move up and begin to engage these guys just to keep them from either getting away or from swarming my elephants. So look at this, is just painful. Yeah. Do not let your swords get exposed when there are elephants and chariots about. And you want to know where all the spears are? They're all back here, screening against my cavalry running around behind. So even the cavalry haven't got a good solid strike off yet. They're keeping all these chosen spearmen away from my elephants, where they're not really doing any good, because I have no intention of bringing this cavalry charge just yet. And while I was waiting for an opportunity, I split up my shot cavalry so that any opportunity I could hope to exploit. And while they were over here, they just ran down some of those Swaby skirmishers that had routed and come back. And this sword unit was attempting a flank, I think. And I just marched a pike unit out to meet it before it could get around me. So these guys are in a fight that they can't really win, especially now that there's carrying axemen coming into their flank. So these Celtic warriors are not going to last terribly long against pikes. Alright, so now this Averni infantry force is drawn up in sort of a defensive circle kind of formation. This doesn't work with pikes. I don't see why it will work with infantry. But at this point, I guess he's got to try something. So I'm just raining javelins on these chosen spears to try to take them out of the fight. I didn't even realize at the time how many chevrons these guys had. So pretty much every kill that my javelin's getting is very much worth it. These guys are quite expensive, I'm sure. So yeah, my Tarantine cavalry back here is taking some losses to his missiles, but I'm actually not too worried about that. So this unit's even trying to run in. I actually lost track of this unit for a second. I didn't realize the unit they were shooting at ran the other way. So I pulled them out of there. I didn't want them getting totally swarmed. See, now Drago's also pushing in this flank. So this guy's really got nowhere to go. So I'm just going to start use my pikes to hold him in place. And I'm going to send in my war... Oh, I forgot about one unit. I forgot to mention these Melosian dogs, which I'm now going to go ahead and unleash into this fight. Try to get these guys a morale penalty so they break nice and fast. Not that the elephants aren't going to give them a nice big morale penalty anyway. So we got dogs and elephants and pikes, and now here comes cavalry coming from every direction. And this Averni army really can't really expect a hold against that for very long, especially as Drago's elephants come in from the other side. Even though we have cavalry fighting against spears back here, we're actually not that upset by it, just because we have the flanks. He suffered so many losses, they're just going to rout with tons of men left in the unit. Alright, so yeah, my big here unit, kind of unsurprisingly, is that one unit of mercenary Indian war elephants, because they were able to get a couple solid charges off, one into nothing but sword infantry. I was surprised that in a relatively short fight, these Melosian dogs were actually able to do a fair bit of damage, although I would imagine that a good portion of that is against a routing unit, basically after the fight was won. The pikes didn't do a lot, but they did what I needed them to do. They held their ground. And Tarantines did okay. Cav did okay. Javelins did pretty good, suffering very little loss in return. Uh, Not to, you know, give these guys too hard of a time, but they could have played that a lot better. They had plenty of spears. They had some very good spears in the form of these chosen spearmen. And even the Night Hunters aren't terrible. But they left their sword units too exposed without missile protection, without enough missile protection, without javelins or something like that to stop elephants. Uh, so, and even the cavalry. So the elephants and the cavalry were just able to get in and just mess people up. So some of these Ptolemaic cav, 149 there. Even these carrying axemen did quite well. The African war elephants almost 300. The chariots 250, 264 it looks like. Yeah, so if you're gonna take this many sword units, you have to make a good effort to bring them into battle and use spears to protect them from those units against which they're weak, which would be heavy cavalry, elephants, and things of that nature, and get them around our flanks. Because if any of these sword units had gotten into my Illyrian levies or my Thurio spears, they'd have thrashed them. And if they'd been able to get to my pikemen from anywhere but the front, they would have thrashed them too. Uh, but because we were able to get these cavalry charges off, they were unable to do that. So in any case, thanks again to Comrade Drago for another good 2 versus 2 battle, and a good game to our opponents, DJ Coolfab and Von Dave Black. Well, in any case, I'm sure I pronounced that badly. But thank you once again for watching. If you liked the video, please do like the video, comment, and subscribe. I am Southern Wolverine, and wishing you a good day.